guys ready to talk about some news?
Maybe.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time. The good news, the bad news. Amazing day, you guys, in politics and in occurrences around the world. Here in California, specifically in Los Angeles, we are reeling. We are reeling under the impact of so many things hitting us at one time, starting with the shooting, the horrible shooting here in Thousand Oaks, then turning into the fire. I was barely recovering from even the news of the shooting when I had to come to grips with the fire, which I actually had anticipated would maybe slow up. I think that was the mistake I made, Vic, is that when it began, because we get fires here, and I thought it was going to stop, but it didn't stop. It hasn't stopped. And so we find ourselves today dealing with a tragedy here in Los Angeles, and so it is difficult for us. Difficult for us once again, even though I will say this, we are blessed because of who we are and the economic and political power that California and Los Angeles has. You will notice we get the best of the disaster interventions. We do. You know, as compared to the Carolinas, as compared to Florida, certainly as compared to Puerto Rico and other places. In California, we are privy to the best disaster responses that the United States can bring, and therefore we are privy to the best disaster responses in the world.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not going to even get into, what the presidency's comments are in the wake of people dying, and he makes it political. I'll just sit back and say, everything is about containment. We know down here, at least down in Southern California, it will be beyond Tuesday before they can really grapple with it because the Santa Ana winds and the wind conditions are going to continue on through tomorrow. So they're already saying, for the most part, Tuesday minimum, and then you go beyond. I can tell you right offhand that the campfire up north, the Butte one, the one where a lot of deaths unfortunately occurred as well, is 25% contained. The Woolsey fire down here is only 20% contained. So and the Hill fire is the one that, of course, they've been able to surround themselves with, and it's 80% contained. There are other smaller fires, but for the most part, those bigger fires are more in concert with what they call suburban homes and structures. That's what makes this one, this year, a little bit more of what they call all-time disaster and historical facts. Although, say last year, more acreage, but these are fires where they literally said what was going to happen. They said, it is that time, dry brush, the conditions, the winds, and I think they were even talking about it about 3 or 4 days before from California, Cal Fire. And they said, we're preparing for this. And it sprouted up just that fast. So we just hope that they contain it, man. I hate to see people lose their homes, man, no matter what their background is, because that's, most of us trip off over a car. But you literally see people abandoning their cars in these fires because they underestimated the speed and how fast they move. They move uphill much faster than they do downhill. So I hope to see that by the end of the week, they're wrapping their arms around it, but they're saying the end of the month.
Well, the president's making a political issue of it, and it's a horrible tragedy that we're faced with, Vic. And some of the comments are just so stupid. For example, the big comment that you kind of referred to earlier was the fact that the president, I had to go find it, and here it is. The president tweeted, with proper forest management, we can stop the devastation constantly going on in California. Get smart. Well, Representative Ted Lieu responded in a way that just sort of puts it right in point. He said, you understand California only owns 2%, okay, that caught by saying that the tweets were ill-informed, ill-timed, and demeaning, and he reminded that most forests in the state of California are federally managed. California only owns 2% of those forests in the state. The remaining 98% are federally managed. And then Ted Lieu goes on to remind the president, guess who cut funding to forest management? You did.
Right.
You did.
Right.
You did it, Mr. President. And so we here in California are suffering because, again, and this is not new. They tried to punish California when it came to the energy crisis, remember?
Right.
This is known.
Yeah.
So they try to punish California, who they perceive as being liberal, the sanctuary state. So what they're doing now is trying to tell Californians
Right.
to stay and do their thing.
Did everybody see the example? I remember about a year or so ago, everybody was going, look at he's going after the NFL players, and everybody kind of isolated. I said, notice how he turned on that particular group. And I said, oh, so you guys don't think he'll turn on anyone else? I'll say it, and I'll say it before. He only has one allegiance, and that's to his direct family. Everybody else, he will flip you. Like a burger on heat, he will flip you. So to me, for him saying this, I say, isn't this par for the course? So I don't see no surprises. I see an allegiance to his family. Everybody else, you will be served.
Well, things continue, and I remind everyone, too, that before the holidays hit you fully, you're going to have the chance to see a very orchestrated response to all of these things. In other words, part of my predictions is now you have the House, so they're going to be getting ready, even though you have to understand a lot of the things that they do can actually occur before the first of the year. Mm-hmm. So really it's for all about the Congress in terms of the actions they take. But remember, the same committees that have been blocking things now change to a different leadership. And because of that, things happen. Maxine Waters, excuse me, she's going to be in a different position. A lot of folks, things are going to change, and we're going to see those things occur. But I want to remind you of other things, and I think this is most important. While the debate goes on about what can actually be done to rein in this president legally and those issues, while you get to watch that, and even though it's been rumored that the president, that behind the scenes, the debate that's going on is whether to subpoena the president or whether to allow him to answer certain questions in other ways, while that debate goes on about the president, and may even end up in the Supreme Court as the president indicates his willingness to fight. Those things may end up in the Supreme Court, but I remind you, and my prediction is clear, the president's family is different. What you're about to see is the president's going to have to endure watching his family indicted, prosecuted. Back in 5/22/17, if you go look at the report that I made in the predictions, I predicted jail time for Donald Jr. and Jared, and just having them indicted, having potentially Ivanka indicted, having them have to testify is going to be something that's going to destroy the president. Well, let's put it like this. It'll be very difficult for him. He will have to endure that. Not to mention that the fact that the other investigations are going to start to chip away at his financial empire, which he could have gotten away with had he simply kept his own mouth shut. Now his financial empire is going to be exposed. So that's what you're going to see. And we remind you, it's welling up now. What goes around comes around, Mr. President, and they're coming for you. The second story for this morning's news is that the NRA, National Rifle Association, has actually been getting a lot of flack because of some of their responses to physicians. Because I am a physician, a board-certified pediatrician, still with my license, I'm right there in the middle of that group. Because they said, let me tell you, this is what they posted on Thursday. Someone should tell self-important anti-gun doctors to stay in their lane. Half of the articles in Annals of Internal Medicine are pushing for gun control. More upsetting, however, the medical community seems to have consulted no one but themselves. To which I say to these people, fuck you, okay? And this is why you go to war. The NRA is trying to tell doctors to stay in their lane. But let me just tell you, I said, because sometimes the most appropriate response is fuck you. So I gave that. But let me just tell you what the doctors were putting out. The doctors were putting out, wow, it seemed like it was in my lane when I had that 2-year-old with the gunshot wound. Wow, it seemed like it was in my lane where I had to tell these parents of a 14-year-old that their son was dead, killed with an assault weapon. So the doctor's response, here's some of the pictures, Vic, that the doctors put out right here.
Yeah.
I said, the doctors said, so is this my lane? Is this my lane? You know, look at that. Is this my lane? I myself have stood in practice. I trained at County Hospital. I've seen bullets do things you can't even imagine.
Right.
And as running the ICU at LA County, I had a 2-year-old with gunshot wound through her neck as a passerby. So what I'm saying is doctors really resented this. The flack has been incredible. And as it should be.
Right.
Because how dare you? How dare you? And to me, what I wanted to say, there comes a time in all these battles where you just simply decide to go to war. You know, I said this before, there are those times when it comes to bullies that you need to not even speak. Just get a few of your buddies, find them when they're alone, walk up to them, and hit them square in the head. Proceed to beat their ass so they understand the new truth. So sometimes you have to go to war. It's time to go to war. I said that before, even about dealing with Trump. There's a time where you go and you say, my 65 is stronger than your 35. Okay? We intend to beat you back. That's what time it is. It is time politically to assert your will on the racist bigots that make up now the minority of this country. Now that they are the minority, it is time to inflict our will upon them. You will stay in your lane. You will act right. You will not threaten people. And if you do, you will go to jail. And we're going to make it so you have to register these firearms. And we won't make it so crazy people can get them. And maybe we're going to provide mental health care for the world. It comes a time where you need to go to war and say, this is what I stand for. This is what I will do. And to me, we're at that time.
You ready for the knock on the front door? Because I'm going to be in the back and just tell them I'm not here.
They probably gonna come get me, but I'm old. I'm old.
No, wait a minute.
I'm old and wearing out.
Wait a minute.
Don't get Vic.
No.
Get the man bun, dude.
I want you to understand. He said it's time to go to war. There is a war. It's a psychological war. It's a social media war.
Fuck.
It's all. So let's just keep it account because somebody, Mario, you do know this is true. Some people take the emotion and the moment of words and say, oh, he's telling me to go out there and do this. Be careful.
Well, I'm not telling. I'm saying to get active. I'm not saying kill nobody. See, here's the thing.
Be careful.
We're not, you notice no leftist people have been out there killing people.
Right.
This is what's amazing. All us leftist radicals, immigration supporters, we're not out shooting no damn body.
Right.
But all these good old boys out there shooting every goddamn body. Who is the enemy here? Who is the enemy?
I just want you to understand. I want to say this in the right way, that there are some people who are touched that don't know the difference between the right and the left, and they're just going,
there's some dumb people out there.
On both sides.
Yeah, so I agree. I don't know what to do
man.
about that. It's not my problem. Read a book.
Wait a minute.
Shit.
Wait, Mario.
I don't care. It ain't my problem that you're ignorant.
Wait.
Get woke. Stop being ignorant.
I'm just trying to prevent.
I can't dumb down everything.
I'm trying to prevent the knock on the door.
Well, we might get the knock on the door. We're not advocating any violence, but we are advocating activism.
There you go.
And
That's
I can't.
what I'm talking
and my
about,
point
bro.
is this: you can't stand on the sidelines. I quote Dante, who Dante said, "The hottest places in hell are reserved for those who, in times of great moral crisis, maintain their neutrality." So all of those people out there who want to say, I ain't political, I don't know, you're an idiot and you're part of the problem. Okay? So that's what I said. That's why I say Dante said the hottest places in hell. For those of you who want to maintain your neutrality.
Right.
When Hitler was killing everybody, people in Germany were going, I don't see it. What you mean? Oh, what? Ooh. So no, hell no. I'm saying that. I'm mad. It's okay to be mad. And now it's time to do action. You need to change your leadership. You need new leadership. And let me tell you something, you guys, all you Democrats, because I'm an ND, but I don't know if that's the answer neither.
Right.
But here's the thing.
That's exactly
here's the thing, because that's why I say I'm not being arrogant about it. None of us know we're doing the best we can. We're making the best choices we can. We know the Democratic Party needs new leadership.
Absolutely.
But you also want the experience of organization of the old leadership. It's not a simple answer. It just isn't a simple answer. But I'm saying, thank God we're wrestling with it. That's part of it.
Yeah.
And here we find ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, my whole thing is that I love what's I said, but people sometimes, there's a difference between patience and activism and then force. And so I always say, the part I like about this, would you say more people are learning about the political infrastructure in the last 2 years than they've ever had? That most people didn't care. They would just vote their line. But you're going to find out when people go into a political war what that means. And so the part I've already been satisfied with is how the youth movement has inserted themselves in these positions where people say there's a cleansing that needs to take place, and we're going to do it by the platform that's afforded to us. So I see the change already. I feel very confident about what's happening because there was a wave. And I like the idea that you have to go in and have new blood injected. And there's this new way of getting what they call stop holding on to what you want to see other people change, make the change for yourself. Is to follow what you just said. Go out there and do something about it. Because people give speeches all day, and that's what politicians do all the time. They look for the speech moment so you can get mobilized by that. And after that, they go back and do the dealings with money. And between you and I, Mark, we know this. What's the percentage of difference between a Democrat and Republican when it comes to the money? Nothing.
No, they vote. Historically, the parties agree on approximately 90% of the budget. Can you imagine that?
Thank you.
If you and your old lady could agree on 90% of the budget, that's a happy-ass marriage, ain't it? So the Democrats and the Republicans, they agree, historically.
Yes.
So this shows you why I'm in the, but I don't even know, once again, that is the answer.
Yeah.
The point is that the stuff is ongoing.
Yeah. And I love the change. I'm literally going, pretend like you didn't have Trump. There was this bed of beliefs of people who existed waiting to be able to say,
well, I'm with you, Vic.
We feel this way.
Right.
And they needed somebody to come out and be their torchbearer. And I said it existed all the time, so I'm not surprised.
No, it existed all the time, and one can make the argument that these things are causes by the universe bringing the issues forward for us to deal with. In other words, it was under the surface, right? Mm-hmm. That gets me to the final point of today. My final point is that historically, when I have looked back, because at this point in time, I recognize that I went through the civil rights movement. I was in LA's first busing program. And I want to remind you all that we almost never recognize that we are part of it when history is being made. And I want you to take a moment to look around exactly at what's happening today on the news and in the world at large. History really, really, really is being made. And it's happening right there in front of you. And don't let it pass you up. At least be aware so that you can decide where you want to fall. What will you have done when you look back at these very troubled times? What did you do? Where did you stand? What was your position when these things occur? And because of that, I want to remind you that it is important. For many of us, all we have is our integrity. Here at Pax Stereo, it's very dear to my heart the things I speak on, the things I say, and the issues I tend to bring to you. I do it because of a true commitment to making better the position of my fellow man in this world. Join me. Let's all become more active to making the world a better place. I'm Mario Hemsley. The good news.